cashed a 9.5x from last night's video. I went for a double under on the Croatia stack. Kovacic and Modric, I said these guys are more likely to get subbed off. Modric only got subbed off near the 80th minute, Kovacic a bit earlier near the 60th minute. And honestly, Italy was dominating them in the second half. They did go up 1-0, and at that point, they just kept clearing the ball. They weren't really holding possession. Italy kind of controlled that last half of the game, and then they ended up tying it 1-1. I don't know if any of you are even watching Copa America or the Euros, but this was an absolutely great game, Croatia versus Italy. Love to see the double under on that. Then Costa Rica versus Brazil. Easy double under on this one. Brazil players did go over. And I'll show you, I almost swept my soccer plays last night. This was the Italy stack I took. I didn't show you guys in the video with Bastoni and Barella. Again, these lines looked a bit too low to me. They both cleared the lines by about 10, and this was the same game as Croatia. So it's kind of inversely correlated. If Croatia is going under their pass attempted, the other team's more likely to go over the pass attempted because they're going to be controlling the ball a bit more. And that's what we saw last night, at least in the second half, because honestly, the first half, Croatia was absolutely dominating. So that's 6-0 on soccer props. I did also give out this NHL stack. Unfortunately, Draisaitl and McDavid were doing absolutely nothing. This was such an important game. Could have made history, but they lost 2-1. The goal in the first 10 minutes did cash, but it wasn't assisted by McDavid or anything like that. Shohei did go under that hitter finest score. I did say this line was way too high. He obviously cooled down and hit that under 11.5 finest score. And I showed you exactly why that was too high in last night's video when he was set at 9.5 on underdog, yet 11.5 on Prizepicks. When the scoring system on underdog actually has higher averages, so it made no sense to be this high. Grab the under on that. So overall, I went 6-2 on last night's picks. This was another soccer stack I hit over in Brazil. And the only one I didn't hit with this Albania stack, I went for the double under. They actually ended up both clearing that, going with the double over. So let's get onto the board today. I just showed you all the success with soccer. So obviously, I'm going to be going to soccer and giving my best passes attempted props. We're going to be making a nice 4-man with this. And it's going to pay 9.5x. Because the correlation is strong, but guys, but it's still worth it, as you could see by the double greens and double reds. When you're grabbing both overs or both unders, very, very likely to hit in that same direction. Now, my job isn't to tell you that it is going to hit in the same direction. We all know that, or at least if you've been watching the videos, we know that. The thing that I'm trying to do best for you here is to tell you the right direction, because it's not as simple as just going double over, double under. You at least want to see what is the more likely outcome. So we're going to go over some props today that I'm liking and telling you the direction. So yes, we're going to be stacking two players from the same team, but I'm going to tell you the correct direction, or at least the one that I think is more likely to happen in the long run. So if you like soccer and you're following Euros and Copa America, definitely subscribe. And if you don't like soccer but you like money, definitely subscribe too. So let's get into the picks for today. We're going to start it off with Copa America. We're going over to the GOATS team, Argentina. But we're not going to be taking Messi on his passes attempted. We're going to go Romero and Rodrigo de Paul on their over passes attempted. So 81.5 and 58.5. I'm saying this out loud because it's very important you get these specific lines. If they get bumped up to like 62.5 and 85.5, it's very different from what I'm showing in the video. So you might want to go double under in that case because maybe the value is lost. So when I'm looking at my passes attempted props, the first thing you want to know is which team is better and are their lines set too high for how good they are. So basically Argentina, we all know that they're better than Chile, but is this a fair line like 81.5 and 58.5? For these guys? Because even though they're the better team, doesn't necessarily mean you want to take the double overs. In this case, you do, as I'm going to explain in a bit. But today I did grab double unders on England. They're set at like 85, 79.5, and 74.5. I believe I took John Stones and Declan Rice on their unders. Even though they are the much better team playing against Slovenia, but you still have to consider the matchups that they played last time. You know, they didn't clear it versus Denmark. They barely cleared it versus Serbia. So I'm looking at things like that too. But I'm not going to go over to England right now. Let's stick on the Argentina example. So let's go over to the game here. And you'll see that Argentina's money line is a minus 225. Chile plus 700. Of course, according to the odds, Chile is not expected to win this game at all. The most likely outcome is an Argentina win, followed by a tie. So we check the box of knowing that Argentina is the better team. Then I like to go and compare these lines to sportsbooks. So right now we know that Romero is set at 81.5 on Prizepicks. You'll see that Bet365 actually has him set at 82.5 at a kind of flat line here. So right away we know we're getting one extra passes attempted on Romero. And it might not seem like a lot because these lines are very high, like 82.5. But trust me, already in this Euros, I've lost by 1 to 3 passes multiple times. So you definitely want to be getting as many passes as possible in your advantage. Now, Rodrigo de Paul, he's set at 58.5. On Prizepicks, he's also set at 58.5. So slight advantage on Romero, nothing on DePaul. Now I'm going to go check how they did in the previous game and who they played versus. So versus Canada, Romero cleared this quite easily here, 93 over that 81.5. DePaul did barely clear it here versus Canada at 62. And I have to think, is Canada a better or worse team than Chile? Well, they're obviously a worse team but Chile, but I still feel comfortable taking the over on this, despite the fact that he barely cleared this versus Canada, because Argentina knows they're going to have to play smarter here versus Chile. They're going to want to hold more possession and play smarter passes, especially in the midfield. Next thing I look at is where these guys are playing on the pitch. It makes less sense to stack someone up like Alvarez with Molina, who's on the complete other side of the pitch. One's playing at the right back position, one's playing at that left winger. These guys are not going to be passing amongst each other. Yes, in general, the whole team passes is correlated, but you still want to have guys that are kind of next to each other in the lineup. Because in soccer, you're playing in these triangles like this, you're going to expect a lot of passes between these three guys, and you're also going to be expecting a lot of passes between these three guys. So especially if they're playing down the right side of the pitch a lot, these two guys are going to be benefiting a lot, which is Romero and DePaul, which is exactly who we have in this specific lineup. So again, I expect these guys to hit no matter what, but I think the over is the more likely outcome in the long run. Like even if it's 52% times that is going on the over and 48% of the time is going on the under, that's still a slight edge. I think the over is the correct play in this case. Since we already spoke about England, I'm going to be going over them for the second stack. And the players I like the most is the offense. We're going with Bellingham on his under 54.5 passes attempted and Saka on his under 31.5 passes attempted. I love taking unders, especially on attackers, because these guys are the most likely to get subbed off. It's very unlikely that Kyle Walker and John Stones are going to get subbed off, or at least not John Stones. But these guys, being attackers, they're likely to get subbed off no matter the case. If they're up 2 goals, they might get subbed off because they want to rest them for next game. And if they're down 2 goals, they might get subbed off because they're not playing good enough. So no matter how the game goes, attackers are more likely to get subbed off. Now this is a perfect example of taking a better team on their unders here. So England is the much better team. It's a minus 334 money line, plus 1,000 for Slovenia to win. So this is an even easier matchup for England than that matchup for Argentina was with Chile, right? But we're still taking the unders because honestly, attackers in general are not going to get as many passes. Against Denmark, Saka cleared 29 passes. Bellingham cleared 44 passes, so they stayed right under. And if we look at the extra value we're getting on Jude's passes, 54.5 on Prizepicks, 52.5 on a sportsbook. So we're getting 2 passes of protection there. And then for Saka, he's kind of set at that 31.5 mark still. But as I said, when you're getting these flat lines and the correlation, it's okay to still grab a player even though we're not getting any passes of advantage. Now again, if we look at this lineup, we got Jude at cam. He's playing next to Saka. He's also playing next to Phil Foden. We don't have a prop for Foden. Saka's playing more laterally. He's basically playing as a left wing or a left cam. So he's not going to be passing unless they're playing on that side of the pitch a lot. Typically, those guys who are playing laterally are not going to get as many passes. But that's why his line is set at 31.5. But again, the reason I'm liking these guys the most is the potential for them to get subbed off. Saka did get subbed off last game and Bellingham did get subbed off in the first game. So that is great to see. So these are both players that are likely to get off the pitch. Hopefully, they're both getting subbed off. Kind of what happened with Kovacic and Modric yesterday. So that is going to be the full 4-man slip. 9.5x on this one. Let's lock it in.